21st of September, 2016, and this is Wayne Goldsboro Television. I'm Wayne Alley.
And I'm Pat Garner.
Where are we?
Wayne County Courthouse.
Oh.
On the steps of the Wayne County Courthouse.
On the steps of the Wayne County Courthouse. How you doing?
I'm good.
Woo, today's Wednesday, middle of the week already. And you know what tomorrow is? If today's the 21st, that means tomorrow is Thursday.
Yes.
No, wait a minute. Tomorrow, autumn arrives. Today's the last full day of summer. Ta-da! So a little after 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, the planet Earth, our home, will cross that imaginary line known as the autumnal equinox, which means that daylight and nightlight time will be equal. Equinox. They're the same length. Daytime and nighttime are exactly the same length. Autumnal equinox tomorrow morning a little after 10 o'clock. Now, coming up, something called Kids Fest. What is that?
Kids Fest.
Oh, it's Kids Fest. Yeah, it's on the 24th, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what is that?
It is it's an event that will educate children and their families about fire safety and health in a fun environment.
You know, we had, yesterday we had John Morton in along with Tara Humphreys, and they told us about Kids Fest. They told us about some of the great equipment, the fire trucks and all that stuff is going to be out at Berkeley Mall on Kids Fest. But they also told us about how they are going to teach children in a fun kind of way how to be careful and what to look for, the signs that you need to be looking for when something is not right in your home and there perhaps could be a fire a-brewing, or what to do in the case there is a fire. What to do, in fact, how often should you change your smoke detectors, how free smoke detectors are available. Anyway, a lot of great information, and you can go online to the waynegov.com website, click on our link to YouTube, and look at yesterday's program and get all kinds of good information about that, right?
That's right.
All right. Anyway, Kids Fest, where is that? That's at Berkeley Mall.
Yes, from 10 to 2.
10 to 2 on the 24th, which is this Saturday. All right? All right, let's see. Oh, by the way, speaking of trivia question, I asked a trivia question yesterday and failed to give the answer in the last segment of the program. So today we'll have a trivia question and we'll have two answers. One will be yesterday's answer, okay? Also part of Kids Fest is the prescription drug pickup. Now, if you have drugs, prescription drugs in your home, or any kind of drugs for that matter, if you have drugs in your home, you need to get rid of them if they're unused, or they're not wanted, or they're outdated. These can be very dangerous when a community, when everybody will have outdated drugs, and everybody does, prescription drugs in your medicine cabinet. You don't want to throw them away in the trash. You don't want to dispose of them in the sink. You want to give them to Barbara Byers, the Wayne County 4-H and Wayne Sheriff's Office, going to be at Berkeley Mall during Kids Fest. You can actually take your unwanted prescription drugs there, your outdated drugs, and just turn them in. They'll dispose of them properly. And this is during Kids Fest between 10 and noon on this Saturday at the front entrance. You don't even have to get out of your car. They'll just drive up, tell them you got some prescription drugs you need to get rid of. They'll come to your car and take them for you. Okay? That's a good deal, isn't it?
It is.
And look at there. Barbara Byers is all over the place. Tell me about that.
October the 1st is Big Sweep 2016, and it's the watershed cleanup, and it's for concerned citizens of Wayne County. Great community service project for Scouts, 4-H, school clubs, churches, individuals. Mm-hmm. It's October the 1st from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. If you can't do the first, call Barbara Byers at 919-731-1527, and they can set up another time.
That's exactly right. Now, we had been mentioning, because that's what the flyer said, that everybody should show up at Cliffs of the News Park. That's not exactly right. Cliffs of the News will not be on the 1st, but they have several. In fact, I think Barbara told me 8 or 9 areas around the county that need cleaning up. And all you have to do is let Barbara know that you, as an individual, or your scout troop, or your church organization, or your family, or total strangers, all get together and you're going to help out here. There's going to be several areas around the county that need attention. Now, this is a watershed cleanup, which means it's not necessarily going to be on the river or in the creek or anywhere like that. It's going to be areas around Wayne County in the watershed that need attention. So call Barbara, 919-731-1527. This is happening on October 1st, and as Pat said, if you can't do it that day, they'll work something out for you. And if you're going to be an individual helping out, that's great. They'll put you with an organization, with a group to help. All right, anyway, just find information at 919-731-1527 and ask for Barbara Byers. Okay?
Okay.
All right, that's the end of this segment. We've got 2 more segments coming up. We've got our middle, and then we've got
The end.
the end segment just ahead. So stay where you are. Don't go away. We'll be back in just a moment on Wayne Goldsboro Television.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome you to this special occasion. I am Melanie Powell, the branch manager here at Steele Memorial Library. And on behalf of the staff, I would like to thank all of you because I know everyone in this room had some part in this amazing building becoming a reality. I want to thank everyone who came from out of town. I know a lot of you are either on your lunch break or coming from other states, possibly some, but thank you for attending today. We really appreciate it. This room in the past 2 years has hosted numerous programs and events for people from ages. We have newborns to people in their 90s coming for programs. So I'm hoping that it has fulfilled a lot of the dreams and visions that Mr. Evans had for this building and our community. It is my honor and a pleasure to introduce the Commissioner of the Wayne County, or the Chairman of the Board of Wayne County Commissioners. Please join me in welcoming our first speaker of the day, Mr. Joe Daugherty.
Thank you. I want to welcome each one of you. I think you need to look around the room and see how popular J.D. Evans was. I mean, look at this turnout. This is just amazing. I want to welcome you here on behalf of the Wayne County Board of Commissioners. If you were here and were able to join us when the Steele Memorial Library dedication ceremony took place, then you will recall that the public meeting room that we're sitting in today was named the J.D. Evans Community Room in honor of J.D.'s love of his community, his vision for this library, and his commitment to see this dream become a reality. You know, I was reading the newspaper last night, and I think that they described J.D. Evans best when they said he was an affable man. He was liked by everyone. Commissioner Evans represented Southern Wayne County in the District 2 Commissioner seat for over 15 years, until his death in 2012. If J.D. were alive today, I know that he would not only be pleased with this library's architecture, but also with the way the citizens treasure this beloved community space. Today we will unveil a portrait of J.D. that, along with a plaque, will be permanently mounted in the library. One of my fellow commissioners, Ed Cromartie, was unable to be here today, and he really wanted to be here. But his wife is here, and Hilda had a few comments on his behalf that she would like to make. So Hilda, if you'll come up and share some of the things that Ed Cromartie wanted to pass along.
Good afternoon. On behalf of my husband, who at the last did his very best to influence me to let him come. And I said, no, you cannot come. He did want to come, and because of surgery, I decided you do not need to come. So I am going to do my very best to represent him. So please, when you do see him, say, she did a good job. Because he will never believe that I did not do the job that he would want me to do. But J.D. Evans is one person that Ed and I looked up to over the years when we came from Cumberland County. J.D. Evans loved Mount Olive. He loved Wayne County. He loved the children of Wayne County. And he especially worked hard for this library. Now, J.D. wanted this library. He worked hard. I was on the committee with him, and this was his talk all the time, was to get this library completed. Today, it is wonderful to see so many of you here. He would smile, and he would say, "Sister, this is great." And all of you know he would always call you sister or brother. So I am honored to stand before you and to tell you J.D. is happy for all of us to be here today to this unveiling of this. So again, we are so glad to be here. Thank you for coming. Shirley, it's an honor, and Ed would love to be here to be a part of this. So again, thank you.
At this time, I want to call upon Library Director Donna Phillips to come in and speak to us.
Thank you, Mr. Doherty. Long before J.D. was a commissioner, he was a beloved educator, an educator who made it a point to not only know the names of his students, but to know something about those students. And I see some heads shaking in the room. I bet he has some students in this audience today. I'm told that J.D. remembered his students as individuals, and that to the delight of those students, when he encountered them as adults, he could remember details of their lives. I was fortunate to witness such an encounter one time. Afterward, J.D., the consummate educator, had an instructional conversation with me. Did any of you ever have one of those conversations? "Donna," he said, "when you meet a person, it's important to pay attention to who that person is, to really get to know who they are as an individual. It's good to be able to recall a person's name," he said, "but when you are able to remember a person's name and recall something about that person, well, that means you took time with them, invested in them, made them feel like they are an important part of the community." When this beautiful library we are gathered in today was just a glint in all of our eyes, including J.D.'s, he asked me to take a ride down south with him. And you all know that means we were going to Dudley and Mount Olive. J.D. said he wanted me to talk to some folks, to meet them and give them an opportunity to talk about the library. You see, that's who J.D. was. These people mattered to him. He was a dream builder, a community builder. And at every home we came to, a knock on the door followed by "It's J.D." was the only key we needed to gain entrance into a family's living room. I remember as a young person, yes, once upon a time I was younger, being struck by the sincere exchange of respect for one another's thoughts and ideas as I listened to J.D. and these folks, as he called them, talk about why Southern Wayne County needed a full-service library. It was as if he was a part of their family. Clearly, he had invested in their lives, and they in his. They were indeed community. Back in the 90s, in a book called The Great Good Place, libraries began being referred to as a community's third place, a neutral social space, different from the two usual social spaces we think of, our homes and our place of work. Even today, in an increasingly virtual world, physical library places are a valued community asset. J.D. understood this. The public library is a place where people can establish personal connections. A public library provides an anchor for economic development and neighborhood revitalization. A community's identity is strengthened by a public library because it draws together people from diverse backgrounds. And it creates connecting places where people are free to exchange ideas, to gain new knowledge, and create things. In other words, the public library is the family room of a community. It was not by accident that this room was named the J.D. Evans Community Room. It was named to honor J.D.'s commitment to building community and his love for libraries. Those of you who know me well know that across from my desk is a photograph of J.D. This photograph serves as a tangent reminder of JD's instruction to me, to always take the time to get to know people. I believe that the portrait hung on the wall in this room will serve that same purpose for all of us. And when we glance at it, we will be reminded that to belong to a community means we support one another, we care for one another, we challenge one another to be our very best. What better place could there be to do this than the J.D. Evans Community Room at the Steele Memorial Library? Thank you. And now I'll call on Lynn Williams. Lynn is the person who chaired the fundraising committee for this library, as you all know. Also, she is on the Library Advisory Board and serves on the Library Foundation Board. What would we do without Lynn?
Well, good afternoon. It is good to be here. It is good to see all of you here. Thank you all for being here. It's not that JD was as popular as much as he loved everybody he came across. And I think that is as much a testament, your presence today, of that as anything else. You know, for all of his life, I think JD saw potential in everybody he met. You know, he made a point, as Donna so eloquently said, you know, as an assistant principal at Southern Wayne, to know every student's name. And he amazed folks that he could recall those names and details years after these kids had left Southern Wayne. Everybody likes to be known, to be called by their name, and especially young people who can sometimes feel that they're just another student in just another class. Relationships mattered to JD. He understood that young people needed someone to be in their corner, to be rooting for them, to be yelling their name from the sidelines, to say go, because he saw the potential in everybody. You know, in his retirement, he joined Jimmy Ford in making motivational talks to students all across the county, encouraging them to make good decisions. He was later tapped to fill Jimmy's seat on the county commissioners board. It was a logical step because JD also saw potential in his community. As a commissioner, he represented Southern Wayne County and all of Wayne County to improve opportunities for residents and to make this community stronger. He loved Wayne County. And as we know the story, among his many interests, he was also he was on the Wayne County Public Library Board, and he was the first to suggest that, man, this empty belt store building would make a fine library. And he worked very diligently behind the scenes to get the momentum going. He joined our Steele Memorial Steering Committee, our Library Steering Committee, our fundraising committee, and he went with us on trips to visit other libraries across the state because this was going to be a fabulous building. And we wanted to make sure we had the best and the newest here in this facility. And he enjoyed those. He worked very diligently to see this project move forward because he understood that an expanded library provided opportunities for the residents and adults and kids alike to fulfill their potential. JD never met a stranger, right? So I could think of no better way of honoring him than to name this community meeting space in his name. I think it would please him greatly to have his name associated with a space that brings people together for programs and events of all ages and for all interest groups. To name a place, you really ought to have a portrait. That's kind of where we came from. We named the room at the dedication, but you know, we got to thinking about it. To name a place, you really ought to have a portrait, a face to go with the name, and a plaque to bring it all together, to tell the story of the name and the face. So today we unveil the portrait, which will be hung later with a plaque, so that people will understand the person behind the J.D. Evans Community Room. J.D.'s story is rich, and it's filled with years of service as an educator and coach, as a county commissioner, as a husband and father and friend. I'm grateful to have known him in the capacity that I did. And this building is but one testament that Wayne County and its residents are far better off because J.D. Evans chose to live and serve here. I want to read what will actually appear on the plaque. And it goes like this. Granville County native J.D. Evans began his career as a teacher and coach at Carver High School in Mount Olive. For many years, he served Southern Wayne as assistant principal, making a point to know every student's name. After retiring from the Wayne County Public Schools Central Office in 1995, Evans turned to public service as a Wayne County commissioner. Among his many involvements and pursuits as a commissioner, he served on the Wayne County Public Library Board. It was his suggestion that the former Belk department store in downtown Mount Olive would make a fine regional library. He worked diligently as a commissioner and as a member of the Steele Library Steering Committee to make it happen. And this facility was dedicated in July of 2014. The J.D. Evans Community Room is a public recognition of his vision, leadership, and lifetime of service to the students and people of Wayne County, whom he loved. Thank you. And I'd like to call up Mayor Ray McDonald to make a few remarks as well.
First of all, I want to welcome all of you to Mount Olive. This is a great day for our town. I want to tell you just one story, and I was told not to talk over 2 minutes, but it's going to take 3. J.D. Evans was one of a kind. All of you that know him, when he set his sights on something, he could forget it. He'd worry you to death till he got it accomplished, whatever he was after. The Wayne County commissioners at that time, and some of the older commissioners are in here, and they know that J.D. had set his sight on a library for this place. He came in my office one day, and he would always walk in the door, and I kept my door open, and he'd walk in and stand in the door and say, "Can I see you a minute?" And I said, "Come on in." But that particular day, he closed the door behind him. So I knew it was important, whatever. He had never done that before. And he sat down. He said, "We're going to build a new library in Mount Olive. What you think about that?" I said, "Have you talked to the other commissioners?" He says, "No, but I'm going to." And he said, "I want to know one thing." He said, "Will the town give us the Belk building?" I said, "Well, first of all, the town don't own the Belk building, J.D." He said, "What? I understood the Wilkins gave it to the town." I said, "No, they offered it to the town. We turned it down. Then they offered it to the college, and the college took them up on it. And the building's been sitting there for a long period of time. They're trying to figure out what they're going to do with it." He said, "How about, can you arrange a meeting with the college and let's talk with them?" And I told him, "Yeah, we arranged that meeting, and Dr. Bird was president at that time. It was myself, J.D., the county manager, Dr. Bird, and George Carnegie was in the meeting. J.D. presented his idea to Dr. Bird, not knowing that Dr. Bird and them was trying to find a buyer as hard as they could, and I didn't either at that time. And Dr. Bird played the old game, "Well, I don't know about this, and I don't know about that." J.D. said, let me tell you something, Doctor." He said, "You need to find out really where you stand with your board and give us that building." And Dr. Bird said, "Well, I don't know about giving it to you, but I think I can arrange for you to buy it." You remember when that was going on then? And he said, "I'll get back with you. We'll call a meeting." We left. Dr. Bird called George Carnegie and I and said, what do they really want? And we said, "Well, they want a building, and we want a library." And I said, "I know what y'all got in it. Would y'all be willing to take what you got in it?" He said, "I will go before the board and recommend that they do that." He did. They passed it. And then we all got together again, and then we ran into another obstacle. How we going to pay for it? We hadn't even talked about that. And JD said, well, can we get it on an installment plan? I won't never forget that. And that's exactly what we did. We got it on an installment plan. I think the county, I saw Jack Best in here and some of the other older commissioners, and I think they paid it off in like a 2 or 3 year deal. And the manager said, well, we got enough to make the first payment. Well, I could tell right then we were going to get the building because Dr. Bird's eyes got that big. But anyway, that's how it came about. And that tells you a little bit about JD and his persistence when he believes in something. And today we here at Mount Olive are honored that they're going to unveil this picture of him. Because I can tell you this, no one in our county deserves any more recognition than JD. He had 3 words that he always repeated: education, education, education. He believed in people being educated, and he talked a lot about lifting people up and making them a part of this community. But I can tell you this, he's smiling on Mount Olive in Wayne County today. I would like to take this opportunity on behalf of the town of Mount Olive and the people of Mount Olive and the town board to thank the Wayne County Commissioners. We had several meetings after the new board came on, and I want to thank y'all for completing JD's dream. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I call Shirley up, I failed to mention before, and this was important to Shirley that I do this, that John Pippin, who is our immediate past president of the Library Advisory Board, and Mary Bartlett, who is the current chair of our Library Advisory Board, both of those folks, one had a medical appointment today and the other one was called into a meeting at work and could not join us, but they both wanted Shirley to know and all of you to know that they're here in spirit. And then also there's a beautiful flower arrangement that arrived just before this event. That was a gift from Mr. and Mrs. Randy McCullen. As you know, Dr. Sandra McCullen served on the Board of Commissioners along with JD. And so at this time, I'd like to recognize Shirley Evans.
I would like to say hello to everybody. And I'm not any good at holding the mic because, as my daughter said, I always use both hands, you know. But today I'm going to be having to hold this mic. And it is such a joy to see everyone here. It's a celebration. And I've had one celebration already. My children gave me a surprise birthday party, celebration, 80 years old, and then this. But this is a great, great celebration. And I would like to just ask, well, first of all, I would like to recognize his family from Oxford, his nieces, and if you would stand, please. He loved Oxford, but they knew he loved Wayne County. And also, I would like for students who came under JD to stand. And of course, one of his favorite students are both from Cary. I'm glad that they're here because he always had use for them. They did a lot of things for him in school at Carver. So much has been said about JD already. So I'm going to look at it in another angle, but I would like for my two sons to stand. Dexter from the area, and my oldest son from Alexandria, Virginia, and which that was another surprise. I didn't know he was going to be here. But I'm going to talk about his work. Of course, you've heard about his education, community work, but he believed in educating young people. That was one of his top priorities. And he says if you don't work with young people when they are young, down in the grades, and give them the things they need to prepare themselves to graduate from high school and get a career, then they're not going to have a good life. And so going through a lot of his things, he had letters from students he worked with after he had graduated, after he had completed his retirement. He and Jimmy Ford, and I'm glad Jimmy Ford is here, but they worked at that job like they were on Dr. Taylor's payroll. And they were going places, but it was volunteering. And of course, the students really appreciated it, and you never know when or where what you say will help them or how they are going to remember it. And just for a sidestep, I'll say, after I retired from Wayne County Schools, I continued to work at the school, Southern Wayne, and there were not many days that I didn't have students coming through in the classes saying, you know, Mr. Evans and Mr. Ford came and talked to my class. I mean, and that was way back, 4 or 5 or 6 years, because I served a long time after I retired after 34 years. But anyway, and they remembered, and they would laugh about some of the things he said. And one day they were all talking, and the girls, and they said, Miss Evans, I know you are jealous because they are talking about Mr. Evans, and they're not saying anything about you. I said, well, that's okay too. And so one of the students in the class, whom I didn't even think he knew my name hardly, you know, I'm subbing there. And he said, Miss Evans knows who she is. Said she is a retired educator. Because I'd always go in the rooms, classes, and I would tell them who I was. And she's proud to be a teacher. And I said, you are so correct. And so somebody's going to recognize things, and it takes a young person to see who you are. Mr. Daughtry had told me that I could talk as long as I wanted to, but he may have regretted telling me that. But but before I do go into this, I do want to mention George Carnegie, because with Mayor Ray McDonald, those were household names in my house, because he was adamant about getting this library started and working with it, and Lynn Williams, and he, of course, knew that he wouldn't see the finished product. He knew that. But he said, you don't know Lynn Williams. He said, but she's going to get the job done. And with all the committees who, you know, took place in working with this, he would say, you know, I don't know if I need this praise, because just one person can't do the job. It takes a whole lot of people. And it's just like he would tell individuals, as when he was county commissioner, I only have one vote, and I have to work with the board of county commissioners to get things to take place. And so he wouldn't want anyone to be left out, And George Carnegie was one who always was working with him and talking with him and encouraging him. And then Miss Ruskin, Miss Jane Ruskin, and I'm glad she's here today. She's the retired librarian, Wayne County Public Libraries. And she worked diligently also in visiting the various libraries and coming up with this plan. And he would come in and say, well, did Jane Ruskin call and tell me where a meeting was going to be or whatever? And so we always had this big thing. I said, oh, this is going to be the Library of Congress, because he was just that excited about it. And I could go on with some more things, but through the eyes of children, Jimmy Ford and J.D. started going around to the schools. They even went to kindergarten, first grade on up, high school, middle school. I mean, they went to all these schools. And they would write letters, you know, the teachers, and that's one thing I can say, that the teachers would always get them to write a thank you note or to tell them what they were learning. And I don't know, you know, seem like now they don't have a lot of time to do that. But it gets them to thinking at an early age what the importance of education. And so I pulled a few of these, and this was written in March 2002. And J.D. saved about everything. And so now I've got to go through all of these things, but you just can't throw things away when you come across this sort of thing. And I want to just show you, this is a 2-page note that the student wrote in the 5th grade. And I mean, I know if you've taught English, you know, or you can hardly get them to write a paragraph. And I'm going to try to read through some of this, but anyway, it says, Dear Mr. Evans, thank you for coming to our class and telling us what we can do to be better, that we could accomplish certain things with 10 goals, like always believe in ourselves. Also, if you believe in yourself, you can do a lot of things, whatever you want to do. And then, I'm going to skip, I would like to read every line because it's so interesting. It says, also, be a good listener. And it says you should be a good listener everywhere, like at school or at home. And another thing was to keep a smile on your face. And that's not hard to do when you are around, because you are just like my granddaddy, and he was funny. and then on number 5, get rid of bad habits. And I won't go further, but I would like to read. They are very interesting, and just think, these are 5th graders. These are 5th graders. I want to read one more here. It says, Dear Mr. Evans, we would like to thank you for telling us about doing the right things and making the right choices. If you did not talk with me, I might have been very disrespectful. This is 5th grader now. But I am not, because you showed me how to be happy and how to think instead of following the crowd and not to make the wrong choices. And also, I want to include this part. It is possible that you could end up in jail or do drugs if you are not always respectful to yourself. I'm very glad that you came and talked to the class about these things. I like the fact that you talk to children about being good and studying and making good grades and using key words. Thank you, and you are welcome. And sincerely, Josh. And I want to interject here about Sheriff Wenders. He and J.D. were very good friends, very close. And they would always talk. We would be at meetings, and J.D. would say, Jimmy Ford and I are trying to work you out of a job because we are going to these schools and we are working with children so that they don't get in trouble. And so they, would always have that. And he would say, well, you and I are on the same page. We represent all the citizens of Wayne County. And they stayed very close and worked close together. And one other one about being a good listener, and I'm not going to read that, but this just tells you the importance of what you tell children at an early age. And of course, and this is what, of course, education is all about. Getting students in the right frame of mind. And last but not least, I want to mention Zeno Spence, who did this portrait of J.D. And working with Lynn, he says, I want you to get to know Lynn Williams because she is a very nice person. She does not make any difference in people. She knows how to treat everybody. And I have found this to be true. We did talk with some artists, and then, of course, she would take it back to the steering committee. But when we went to see Zeno Spence, he's a little in age, but he is one of the nicest men I have ever met. He was so polite, so genteel, and you just felt at ease asking and saying anything. So I think I probably overtalked, like one of the students in these letters said, sometimes you overtalk, but Lynn didn't say anything. So I said, if you draw this, paint this portrait, and it doesn't look like J.D., I said, what's going to happen? He says, well, I'll give it to you. I said, well, I looked over at Lynn, I said, but I'm not paying for it. So when we went back to look at the portrait, and I'll say this, digress here, I really don't like portraits so much so, because it seems like in many cases it doesn't look like the person. But I tried to persuade Lynn and her committee just to blow up a big, picture, but they said no, and Donna, we want a portrait. So I was very pleased when I went to see it, and I think the committee was, and so I told Mr. Spence, I said, I know one person likes it, I don't know who else will. And he had a smile so big, but he was a very gentle person. And I'm glad that we were able to get someone from Wayne County, because J.D. always said, use your resources and businesses in your county. And he says, as long as they are kind to you and respect you and help you, or they have some workers working for them who are kind and respectful. He believed in using the business and resources of Wayne County. And he always had this Mount Olive Pickle Company's jars in the car, and we'd go places, and he'd always have a jar of pickles for the most part to give someone. And don't say you hadn't heard of Mount Olive pickles. I mean, you know. So there are so many more things I would like to say, but I will conclude by saying to you that it is just overwhelming to see so many of you here, and I know this is a delight for JD, and I can imagine that in some way he knows that you're here. And I want to thank you for coming to help us in this celebration. Thank you. Oh, I have one more little thing. And I'm not reading everything in this folder, but I do want to say this. When JD passed away, this 21st Century 4-H Club program sent to his family all of these. Would you open this, please? They had all of these, their students, participants, to draw cards, make cards to send to the family. Now, you know, you don't expect that sort of thing, but you never know what God has in mind and planned for you. And this was the most heartwarming thing, to read through these, and I still like to read through them occasionally. And this was, I'm sorry for your loss. You can go through this. God bless you. 21st Century 4-H. And I just wanted to really include this and thank you. And this is the end for me.
Wayne Goldsboro Television on a Wednesday, midweek already. Here we go, the last full day of summer. Oh boy, make the most of it. Do something summery. Summarizing everything else here. Anyway, here's today's trivia question. First of all, let me give you the answer to yesterday's trivia question, okay? Yesterday I asked the question, what document was replaced by our U.S. Constitution? When our Constitution went into effect, it was 1789. 1789, that's 13 years after we declared independence. Well, something was there between 1776 and 1789. Everything was ratified in 1787, all right? And then it took effect 1789. But something was in place before that. What was it? The U.S. Constitution replaced the Articles of Confederation, which was similar to a constitution, but there were a few, they had to tweak it, they felt. Madison felt like they had to tweak it, and several others as well. So they did. And that's the answer to yesterday's trivia question, the Articles of Confederation. And that, too, is not a lengthy document. You might want to read that one, too, and then read the Constitution. You'll find it very interesting, I promise. Now, here's today's trivia question. This is still Constitution Week, and we'll continue. Constitution Week. There were 13 states at the time the Constitution was ratified and accepted and put into effect. 13 states. Before the Constitution went into effect, how many states did it take to ratify it, to make it official? For the Articles of Confederation, everybody had to agree to it. But for the U.S. Constitution, how many states did it take to ratify the U.S. Constitution to make it official and put it into effect? That's our trivia question. We'll have the answer for you in the next segment here on Wayne Goldsboro Television. Is that okay?
That's good.
That's good. We're going to be back after our next segment.
Sergeant Paige Leonard of Crime Stoppers returns and tells us about the latest crime of the week. How are you doing?
Doing great, thank you.
Great to have you with us.
Thank you.
All right, what's going on?
Well, July 25th, we had a resident in the area of 308 Wilmington Avenue report some items stolen from their property. The officers got there fairly quickly. The items were a ladder, a drill, and a skill saw.
Oh.
And obviously, after their investigation, they were able to determine the suspect was, which is a Jerome Caesar. So this week, we've got Jerome Caesar's picture that we have brought to share with the public.
And there he is.
And we're hoping that somebody will see Mr. Jerome Caesar walking the streets and give us a call. And if you see this gentleman walking the streets, just call. You can call 911. They might refer you over to the non-emergency line, but give us a call right then, and we'll get officers to the area he's at and hopefully get our hands on him. And he's got 2 warrants for felony breaking and entering and larceny after breaking and entering. And obviously, I can pay cash for those warrants. So if somebody would give us a call and let us know his location, we will be glad to serve those warrants on him.
And when you say you can pay cash for those warrants, that means as a part of the Crime Stoppers
That's right.
reward program.
These are felony charges, so it makes it eligible
Right.
to where I can pay a cash reward if they're the caller that gives us his location.
And the numbers to call, 919-735-2255, or you can text at 919-222-4230. Or you can go to the TipSoft.
That's right.
Is that it?
You got it.
TipSoft.
So they can go to the Goldsboro Police Department Facebook page and just look at the submit a tip button.
Right.
It's encrypted, and they can type up the tip. They can add pictures. They can, put whatever information they want to put in there, and it automatically assigns them a number. So they can call me back on the line to kind of check on the status of their tip. But, once again, it's encrypted. That means basically we just cannot figure out who sent the email
It's
through the
encrypted,
TipSoft.
which means that the software actually codes everything to where it's unintelligible.
traceable.
It's not traceable.
Right.
She cannot, Officer Leonard cannot tell you or tell anybody who you are. She has no idea who you are, where you are, from where you're calling. So that protects you, and it protects the city as well,
That's right.
and Crime Stoppers as well.
It protects them that way. It still lets them report it anonymously. And, we obviously when they pick up the rewards, I don't know who they are. We never ask for a real name. We just use a code name or a code number.
Right.
And makes it a very simple process.
So that means it's paid in cash.
That's right.
It's paid in cash.
Now, who cannot use cash?
I'll work on that.
Okay.
919-735-2255, 919-222-4230, or go online to the Goldsboro Police Department Facebook page, which everybody can access,
Right.
and go to the TipSoft tip line. Okay.
Yep.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Crime Stoppers Coordinator Sergeant Paige Leonard.
Thank you.
We're back on Wayne Goldsboro Television. I told you some of the things that were special about this week, but I didn't mention what was special about today. Today is the 21st. It's International Day of Peace. Or as Dave Garraway would say, peace. And that's a long time ago. Let's see, we've got the School Backpack Awareness Day. Now, I'm not sure exactly how they mean that, but just be aware of backpacks. Today is World Alzheimer's Day. That's something that's very serious and a growing, for some reason, an increasing problem. Maybe it's just simply because we're able to see it quicker now than in the past. But that's today's World Alzheimer's Day. All right, get ready. Yesterday was Get Ready Day, and this is just a good idea, 24/7, 365 days a year. Get ready. It's the American Public Health Association's Get Ready campaign. Helps Americans prepare themselves and their families and their communities for all disasters, and that would include, of course, infectious disease, pandemic flu, natural disasters like flooding, tornado, hurricanes. Just be ready. And let me give you a couple of websites to go to. You can go to FEMA.gov, FEMA.gov, and there's all kinds of information on there on how to prepare for disasters and what you need in your disaster kit. You can also go to the Red Cross website at redcross.org, and they too have a ton of information about what you need to prepare for disasters. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Now. All right. Oh, this is tonight. This is tonight. Let me tell you about that. Right there, right? Okay.
Tell us about that,
Tell us about that
Wayne.
first. Tell us about, we got to talk about that.
The Big Cat is coming up. It's a kids catfishing tournament that will be held Saturday, September the 24th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. It will be at the Goldsboro Municipal Golf Course.
You're going to go fishing on a golf course.
Yeah.
What it says?
It's for ages 5 to 15. You can register at Easy Bait and Tackle or Goldsboro Parks and Recs, and you can also give them a call at 919-739-7480.
There you go. 919-739-7480 and get information about the Big Cat Tournament. That's for kids ages 5 to 15.
Yes.
Yeah, if you go by Gary Bevel's place on 117 South, tell him we said, hey. Hey, Gary. All right, also, we've got coming up tonight, this is a cancer clinical trials and you. This is tonight at Wayne Memorial Hospital. It all begins at 6 p.m., goes till 7 p.m. Then there's a question and answer period that will follow. And Dr. Kasbari, a lot of people know Dr. Kasbari, oncologist here with SMOC, Southeastern Medical Oncology. And he will be presenting this program tonight on cancer, on clinical trials and you. That's the title of it. Tonight, 6 p.m., Wayne Memorial Hospital. It's part of their Live Well series. Now, here is the answer to today's trivia question. The question was, how many states did it take to ratify the Constitution before it before it went into effect? We had 13 states at the time, and the answer to the question is it took 9 states to ratify our Constitution before it went into effect. And the first state was Virginia. The last state needed to ratify, the 9th state needed to ratify was New Hampshire. North Carolina and Rhode Island were the last 2, number 12 and 13. If you look at the U.S. flag, we're number 12. And we were number 12 and Rhode Island number 13 because we didn't like it. Now, we wanted to make some changes, and we all worked it out with a compromise. Because North Carolina's kind of like that sometimes. We just want things spelled out right. So anyway, we were number 12 and Rhode Island number 13, but it took 9, and New Hampshire was the one that put it over the top to make it go into effect. And that's the answer to today's trivia question. And that's just about going to wrap up the last day of summer here on Wayne Goldsboro Television. Have a great day. We'll do it again tomorrow morning beginning at 7 a.m. The show repeats at noon. And then the show repeats again at
5:30.
5:30, thank you. Hope you're able to join us at least for one of those times. And then on a weekend, it runs at 4 times. How about that? So until tomorrow, I'm Wayne Howley.
And I'm Pat Garner.
And this is Wayne Goldsboro Television.